Great, perfect. So we'll get started. So hi everyone, I'm just looking through the guest list. I do recognize quite a few of you guys from strategy calls or from other services that we've worked together with. So for those of you that I know, thank you so much for joining. For those of you that I don't know, also thank you for joining. It's great to see you all here. So it won't take up too much of your time today. This webinar will be about half an hour of content, and then we'll do a little bit of a Q&A at the end in case you guys have any questions. So I would just ask during the webinar, if you can keep your microphones turned off just to avoid any kind of distractions throughout the presentation. If there's any questions that you think of during the webinar, please feel free to drop them in the chat. So at the bottom right of this, of the Google Meet, you should have a little chat box. Feel free to drop them in the chat and I will get back to them all at the end of the presentation. Otherwise, like I said, we will open the floor at the end in case you guys do have any questions. But just for the duration of the webinar, if you can keep your microphones turned off, that would be great. Okay, so about Beyond the States. So at Beyond the States, we believe that higher education is a right and not a privilege. That's why we've dedicated ourselves for the last 8 years to help students pack their bags and go study in Europe, where higher education is much more accessible, enjoyable, and affordable for everyone, including English speakers. So it's not just reserved for people that speak other languages. It's, there's plenty of opportunities for English speakers as well. And my name is Jaimee. I'm one of the college advisors here. I've been working with Beyond the States for about 2 years. And before doing that, I worked on the ground in Europe, assisting students with internship programs, faculty-led programs, student admissions, all throughout Europe as well. So that's a little bit about me. So this webinar today is about planning your junior and senior year for college in Europe. So this is a question that we get pretty often in our strategy calls. Families might be a little bit lost on what they need to do in their junior and senior year to be able to access colleges in Europe. So this webinar is just to kind of demystify the process a little bit, give you guys a little bit of advice and tips and tricks on where to start, when to start, and how to start. So today we're going to cover why you would choose Europe for college, how US high school planning differs from the European ones, give you a little bit of a junior year roadmap, a little bit of a senior year roadmap, a little bit of tips and tricks on applications, timelines, and common mistakes that people might make, as well as how we might be able to help you guys if you're interested in working with us. So why would someone consider college in Europe? So there's a lot of different reasons. These can be very personal, but some of the main reasons that students do come to us because they want to attend school in Europe is, they taught in English bachelor's degrees across Europe. So there's plenty of opportunities. There's a lot of different schools, a lot of different really cool programs that you can access in Europe. In general, there is lower tuition and lower overall cost of living. Again, this is going to depend on which country and which city you're looking at, but it is possible to find significantly lower tuition rates and significantly lower cost of living in certain towns and cities. Another thing that's very attractive to some students is an earlier specialization. So something that's a little bit different from schools in Europe versus schools in the US is generally you're going to be applying directly into your major. So for students that already know what they want to do, which area of study they're interested in, it's a really good path to access those courses directly and not have to do that kind of first year of exploratory courses like you'd find in the US. So it's great for students that know what they want to do. Having the earlier specialization also makes the degrees a bit shorter. So the degrees tend to be 3 years instead of 4 years, which is, it's a great way to get faster entry to your career, grad school. I also see this as a way of saving money when you're only paying for 3 years of tuition versus 4. It does tend to reduce the cost quite a bit. Some people might want to go for international experience, global employability, different connections that they're going to make versus if they were to stay in their hometown, go to their state school, they might have, more opportunities to meet more international people, which is great. Another thing that I actually didn't put here, but I forgot to, is that a lot of schools in Europe do incorporate some element of internship or work experience into the program, which is a great way, again, to build connections in the professional world that students can then use in the future when they're looking for jobs. They might already have contacts contacts in companies in Europe, which is great to have. And there's also a lot of hands-on learning in the internship. So that's something that I quite like about schools in Europe, is the value they place on hands-on learning, work experience, practical experience. It's great for students that are interested in that. So some key differences in Europe versus US admissions. So I'll just start off by saying that European admissions in general are not one size fits all, okay? They're going to be very different depending on which area of study, which country, and even which city and which specific school. So they're all going to be looking for different things. But in general, European schools are going to be looking more at academics, not so much extracurriculars. So when you're applying to schools in the US, extracurriculars do carry quite a bit of weight in the application process. It's not really the case in Europe. So while they will look at your application and look at everything that you've done and will take into consideration extracurriculars, it definitely does not carry the same weight. They're going to be looking more at your academic profile, which courses you've taken, what your grades are like, etc. So the extracurriculars will not hold as much weight as they do in the US. Another thing is that there's no Common App. So there is some schools that use the Common App, but they usually tend to be American schools that are based in Europe. They'll be more likely to use the Common App. Otherwise, you're going to need to be applying to all the universities individually, either through the school itself. Sometimes it's going to be a government portal. So Spain and the Netherlands are two great examples where they use a government portal where you apply to different universities through that portal. So it really depends on the school again. So it's always going to be really important that you check what the admissions requirements are and what the application process is like for these schools, because it varies so much. So it's not going to be as straightforward as the US where you can go through the Common App. There are different admissions requirements. It's not, it sounds a bit complicated, but it's not. As long as you plan far enough in advance and have a good idea of which schools need which type of application, you'll be okay. Fewer essays and fewer standardized tests as well. So a lot of schools in Europe don't necessarily require an entry exam. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And there's going to be less essays as well. So sometimes schools in the US might ask for specific essays, whereas in Europe, they just want a more blanket general motivation letter or personal statement type essay, okay? And then again, in the US, the admissions, like I said, are often based on different things. So it could be GPA exam results, subject prerequisites, high school transcripts. So it is a little bit different. Again, it's just going to be a matter of checking very closely with the schools and seeing what their requirements are. So what European universities tend to care about? So strong performance in relevant subjects. So if you're going to be applying to science or math-based degrees, they're going to want to see strong performance in science and math-based courses in high school. If you're applying to, potentially history programs, they might want to see some history courses with strong grades. So again, this is where it differs a little bit, is because you're applying directly into the major. It's great to have courses that relate to that major to be able to gain admission. They want to see consistency across junior and senior year as well. So it's great to maintain, your GPA, good grade point average, maintain your good grades throughout the junior and the senior year. Meeting specific entry requirements as well. So like I said earlier, if you're applying to math-based programs, it's great to have math-based courses from high school. Proof of English proficiency. So this is something that you'll see in a lot of applications. If you are coming from a US high school that was, an English high school, you won't need to provide any proof of English proficiency. But if you're coming from another country that's not the US, it's likely you will need to do some kind of English certificate. It's going to depend on which school, but that's something that you'll need to do. So if there's anyone in here that's not from the US, not attending an English taught US high school, you will need to provide some kind of proof of English proficiency. And the motivation letter as well. So I touched on this briefly in the last slide, but this is kind of like a personal statement, okay? And it's going to be required in most applications. So it's more of a blanket statement. You're going to talk a little bit about yourself, why you want to join this program, what your journey's been like until then. So it's really important to kind of check what each school requires, because they're going to all ask for different things. Sometimes on the websites of these schools, they might actually share examples of what they're looking for or guidelines of what they're looking for in these motivation letters, which is super helpful. So that's something that I would always try to check and see if they have any examples online. Otherwise, you can find some more examples online, or this is something that we can help you with as well. Okay, so let's start with your junior year. So a lot of families come to us and they're not sure when they need to start the process. I always think the earlier, the better, okay? Junior year is a really good time to kind of start the process if you know that going to school in Europe is something that you want to do, just because it gives you time to kind of figure out which schools you're interested in, which programs you're interested, and make sure that you have the courses required to access those programs. And being in your junior year, that still gives you 2 years to kind of take any APs or any extra courses that you might need to do. So as I said earlier, you know, it's good to explore your academic interests early because most of the time you are going to be applying directly into the major. There are some programs that are a little bit more broad. These are usually called liberal arts type programs, so they would be a little bit more interdisciplinary, but they're definitely not as common. So usually you will be looking at applying directly into the major. So in your junior year, it's a good time to kind of have a think and figure out, you know, what it is that you might want to study. Is it business? Is it math? Is it healthcare? Is it social work? It's a good time to think about what you might want to do, okay? It's also a good time to start understanding the degree structures in Europe. So because the degrees are, you know, they're quite set. You're going directly into the area of study that you want. They do tend to be pretty structured. So you won't have as many options as you would find in the US where you get to take different courses. They do tend to be a little bit more structured. So it's important to kind of see, you know, what type of courses you'd be taking. Oftentimes, if you're looking at a program website and you can see the content of the program, they'll let you know what courses you would need to take in each semester of the full 3 years. Okay, so you can have a look at that, see what kind of courses are offered, if it's something that interests you, and you can kind of go from there and make sure that, you know, it's a course that you're interested in taking. Keep grades strong. So definitely, you know, try to make sure that you're keeping your grades strong. And this applies, you know, even if you're applying to US schools, you want to make sure that you have strong grades for your junior and senior year. And again, begin researching countries and systems. So like I said earlier, a lot of the countries and the admissions requirements will vary. So it's important to kind of have a look, see which countries might suit you. Also see what the cost of living might be like in those countries, see what the culture might be like in those countries if it's somewhere that you'd be interested in studying, and, you know, kind of understanding a little bit more about country specific and school specific things just to make sure that you like it. So you still have quite a bit of time if you're looking in your junior year. And starting this early will avoid any last minute kind of hustle or senior year sort of panic. So junior year academics, what to focus on. So the first thing that I'm putting here is take AP courses aligned with intended major. So this is a big question that we get. AP courses do tend to be a requirement for quite a few schools in Europe, okay? And quite a few countries as well. So if there's countries like the Netherlands that you're interested in going to, they have an AP requirement, same like Italy. But there are some countries that don't have this AP requirement, okay? But the best thing to do, if your school offers AP courses and you know that you want to go to Europe and you know that you want to study, I'm not sure, business or something like that, it would be a great idea to start taking some AP courses or signing up for some AP courses that are in the area of study that you're interested in, just because it will open up a few more doors for you, okay? If your school doesn't offer AP courses, there are ways to bypass this. So some students might take AP courses self-study through the College Board. Or another thing, you know, if your school doesn't offer APs and you don't want to do self-study, I understand it's quite a big undertaking on top of your regular course load. You can always start looking at countries and schools that don't have this AP requirement. So you don't necessarily need to do them, but having AP courses aligned with your intended major will open up more countries and more programs for you when it does come time to apply. Pay attention to subject requirements again. So like I already said this, but some programs will require math and science, social sciences, humanities may require writing heavy courses. So just have a look at what these programs are looking for and make sure that you're taking at least a few courses in those subjects. Junior year research phase. So this is a good time as well, like I said, to start researching different school systems. So if you're interested in studying in the UK, it's going to be a different system than the EU. So it's a good time to kind of have a look at that, see if the UK system suits you. Netherlands and Ireland have kind of different systems as well. So it's a good time to, have a look at all those different countries and areas and see, if those would work for you. Also identify countries that fit your budget and goals. Like I said, some countries have higher costs of living, some have lower cost of living. Take a look at programs taught in English. Look at the admissions requirements as early as possible as well, okay? So even if, excuse me, even if excuse me. So yeah, even if, you're looking in your junior year and they only have the admissions requirements posted for the following year, just have a look at it, right away, just to have an idea of what they're looking for next year, because it will probably be similar by the time you're going to apply the year after that. So have a look at what they might be looking for. And if you have any questions about any of this as well, there are international student offices at these schools that can answer any questions that you might have. This is also something that we can help with, because I understand a lot of these program websites can be a little bit confusing. They can be a little bit dated. So if you're stuck, it's always good to try to reach out to someone. And start a short list as well. So start a short list of different programs. It could be different schools, it could be different countries. Just have a look at what they're looking at and just start a short list. I would recommend a short list of about 5 to 10 programs to get started, especially in the junior year. Then you can narrow it down as you get into your senior year. So for the summer after your junior year, this is a good time to narrow down your list even further to more realistic options. See which courses you were able to successfully take and what grades you got in your junior year. See if you even liked those courses. When you started looking at these programs, you might have been super interested in science, but then you took some science courses in your junior year and you decided it's not necessarily for you and you want to maybe explore an English degree or something like that. So that's a kind of good time to have those questions with yourself and understand if you really want to pursue a degree in the courses that you were just taking. It's a good time to start drafting motivation letters, even just starting to write a bit of a skeleton just to get, something kind of written at the moment. So that's a good time to start doing some drafts in that summer. Review your transcripts. It's a good time as well, if you don't have a passport already, to start getting that in order. There could be delays with passports, so the sooner that you get it, the better. So it's a good time to make sure that you have all of your documents in order to be able to travel and to be able to go abroad. This is a good time as well to start reaching out to schools for virtual tours, materials, online meet a student. So some families might travel to Europe to go visit campuses, but there are ways to not necessarily have to do that. A lot of schools do offer virtual tours or kind of virtual open houses. If you guys are members of our community, we actually post a lot of these virtual open houses on our website. We can share those links with you if you don't know where they are. It's a good resource to kind of have a look and see different schools. A lot of the schools also offer, it's called Meet a Student or Match with a Student, where they would actually match you online with a student who is usually an international student who's studying at that school. And they'll actually introduce you to them and you can meet up with them online and, ask them a few questions about how they adjusted, what their course is like, what the school is like. So that's a really cool resource. Not every school offers it, but it's always worth a look to see if they do. It's a great way to, kind of meet someone your own age in the same situation and kind of see, how they're getting on at that school. Our community as well is a great resource for this. If you guys are members, you'll see that there's a lot of activity in there. There's students who are talking about their experience. So you can always post in the community and ask, hey, is anyone attending University College Dublin? I'd love to have a chat with you. Usually people are very happy to talk about their experience. So that's something that you can do as well, just to get an idea of what other people are doing. And in this, in this summer as well, plan your senior year to take any missing AP courses or any missing, other courses that you might need. So in your senior year, this is going to be the time where you're going to be finalizing your program list. So you're going to be narrowing it down to, I don't know, I know I said at the beginning, your initial short list should be about 5 to 10 programs. This would be a good time to really narrow it down to 3 to 5 programs that you actually want to apply to, that you're going to meet the admissions requirements for, and start, kind of finalizing that and figuring out when the applications are due. Like I said, they're not going to be one size fits all. They kind of pop up at sort of different times. So it's a good time to see when they might be accepting applications. Some schools do offer early bird deadlines, which could start as early as September. So if they offer those early bird deadlines, I would always suggest to apply to those as soon as possible. It's great to get an answer, right away. If you know already by September, October, if you've been accepted to that school, it's great. It makes everything else a bit easier to plan as far as housing, visas, travel, moving. So if you already know where you're going, it's a good thing to do. So if there are early bird deadlines, we always recommend that you apply to those if you can. Stay academically eligible. So even if you get an acceptance letter from a school, a lot of times these acceptance letters are conditional, okay? So what that means is you need to maintain your grades, and if there were any courses like APs that you were missing, you will need to make sure that you finish those. So what would happen in that case is you would get your conditional acceptance letter, and then as soon as you essentially graduate from high school and get those courses, you submit all of that information to the school, and then they give you your full acceptance letter, okay? So make sure that, you're just because you got an acceptance, you're not letting your grades drop because you might need to submit those depending on the school at the end of the school year, okay? Prepare for visas and logistics. So as far as visas go, again, it's going to vary based on the country. All the timelines are going to be different, but the earlier that you can start the process, the better. It will just save you a bit of a headache. The visas do not tend to be super complicated. There are people that can help you in the school. We also offer a service where we can help with the visas, but the International Student Office of the school is usually going to be the best resource. They'll help you with any documents that you need to provide. Some countries do require documents to be translated and sent to the embassy. So it's really important that you just kind of understand what the requirements are going to be for that country. Some of the countries are a little bit more straightforward than others. Some of them require more documents. It just depends. But this isn't really like a big issue. It just can be a little bit time consuming. So the earlier that you can start, the better. So this is something that I would recommend, again, to start even when you're, doing your short list of programs, even in the junior year. Try to understand what the visa process might look like, what the student visa timelines are like at the moment, just that you have an idea of when you might need to start applying for all of that. This will help you, again, make confident and informed decisions. So just a little snapshot of what the fall semester might look like. So like I said, finalize top programs between 3 to 6. Submit early applications. Like I said, some might open, I put October, but actually some of them do open in September. So some of them will open from September until January. Start requesting official transcripts from your school. Complete the motivation letters. So if you would have started drafting those in the summer of between your junior and your senior year, start finalizing them a little bit more and track the deadlines carefully. Again, they're all going to be different. So I always suggest to make a bit of a calendar for yourselves where you're making sure that you're not missing anything. In the spring semester, that's usually when you're going to be receiving the admissions decisions, often rolling. So you won't get them all at one date. They'll sometimes come in at different times. So you might start getting those coming in. Accept the offers, pay deposits. If you got into the school that you wanted, accept that offer and pay the deposit as soon as possible just to secure your place. Apply for housing. So apply for housing. This is going to be, again, a little bit different than the US because dorms and housing are typically not provided on campus. There are a few exceptions, but generally students do need to find accommodation on their own. This could be in student residences that are privately owned that are based in these university towns. It could be in private apartments that you're renting with other students. So a good way to kind of see about housing would be Facebook groups are a great resource for this. So you can find a Facebook group, let's say International Students in Paris or something like that, or Student Housing in Paris. Look for Facebook groups. There's usually apartments being posted there. So that's a good way to kind of look at it as well. Sometimes the schools as well will have resources for you on where to find the best type of housing if their school doesn't offer it. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. And that's something that you're going to want to take a look at as soon as possible. Just keep in mind a lot of countries in Europe are going through housing crises. So it can be a little time consuming and it can take a little bit longer to find housing at the moment. So just keep that in mind. And again, begin the visa process. So that's something like I just discussed. It'll be good to kind of liaise with the International Student Office of that school. Once you have your acceptance letter, they'll be able to help you, guide you through the process a little bit to make sure that you're not missing anything. And like I said, finish high school strong. Your grades in some cases will still matter. If you've been offered a conditional acceptance, you need to maintain those grades. You need to make sure that you're passing all your courses so you still get that full acceptance letter. So common mistakes to avoid is, of course, assuming that Europe works like the US. Like I said, while some schools do, like these American schools that are based in Europe, they would be a little bit more similar to the US. Most of the schools are not. So they're all going to be unique and individual. So it's really important to do your research and stay informed. Ignoring subject prerequisites is something else that students might make a mistake just because it's not going to be like the US. You need to make sure that you're taking courses aligned with your intended field of study. Waiting until senior fall to research. Look, as I said, the earlier that you can start the process, the better, just because you'll have a lot more opportunities, you'll have a lot more programs open to you. But if you do wait until senior year fall to research, there still will be programs available to you. You just might not be able to make the requirements in time, okay? So you'll just be a little bit more limited. Another thing is applying to programs that you're not eligible for. So if you're applying to schools that clearly state that they have specific requirements, to be honest, there's not much of a point in applying to them. It's best to just spend your time and do proper applications to schools where you are eligible for them. And again, not budgeting for visas and housing. So just keep in mind, like I said, that the tuition price typically does not include housing, and visas are going to be an extra cost as well. As far as financial planning, so tuition varies by country. The students I'm working with right now, okay, are paying on average 8,000 to 15,000 euro per year in tuition on average. There are going to be schools that are cheaper. There are going to be schools that are more expensive. This is just personally what I've seen for this year. This is what my families that I've been working with have been paying, okay? Living costs differ widely. So if you're going to be in a big city like Paris, it's going to be quite a bit more expensive than if you're in a small town in Czech Republic or something like that. So that's something that you'll need to research as well and kind of see, what the cost of living is. We also have a lot of this information in our database. We have a lot of information on the program page on city cost of living, country cost of living, so you can go and have a look at that as well when you're browsing through our database. Proof of funds for visas. So oftentimes students will need to submit proof of funds for visas. It's going to depend on which country. And it's usually going to be, the parents will be co-signing any kind of proof of funds. So that's something you might want to have a look at as well. Just see how much the proof of funds are for each country and make sure that you're able to meet that requirement. Like I mentioned earlier, some countries in Europe are facing housing crises. So have a good look at which ones are in housing crisis at the moment. Netherlands is one, unfortunately. Ireland is one off the top of my head. So quite a few of these countries, it will be a little bit more challenging to find housing. Not impossible, but you will have a little bit of work cut out for you when you're looking for housing in some of these countries. There is limited need-based aid, so there isn't going to be as many financial aid opportunities as you would have in the US. There are some merit scholarships available, so just keep that in mind as well. If you're looking for a school that offers scholarships or aid, that's going to be something you're going to want to look at in your initial research to see if they offer anything like that. And it is going to be more limited than you would have in the US. And like I said, several times, families should plan early. So the earlier that you can start this process, the better. So is Europe a good fit for you? So Europe is usually a good fit for students who are more independent learners. There's definitely not as much hand-holding as you would have in US schools. So a lot of the responsibility of, getting work done on time, planning your days, it does fall into the student's lap. Okay. It's also a good fit for students who are comfortable and that want to specialize early. Who are open to international environments, who are willing to navigate a different educational and country system as well, and that value affordability and global exposure. Just some final takeaways. So, in your junior year, it's a lot of preparation, research. Senior year is execution. Europe definitely rewards planning and clarity. And the earlier you start, the more options you have, the more time you'll have to take courses or prepare yourself in any way to meet any requirements for specific schools and programs that you want. So how can we help? So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with our services, but we do offer best fit list matching service, we call it. So with that, what we do is we would meet with you on a one-to-one basis, and we'd actually curate a list of anywhere from 3 to 8 programs for you. So we'd get you to submit your transcripts, we'd get you to fill out a really detailed intake form, and we would do some country and program matching for you. We'd let you know which programs we think would be a good fit for you, what you would need to do to, get into them, what your eligibility is. We'd give you some guidance on application, what the timelines are like, and some more personalized support as well. So this is something that we offer. We'll include all this information in the letter that we send out tomorrow with the recording, so you can have a look at some of our packages and services. But yeah, that's kind of what we do. So look, I hope that this helps a little bit. It's a little bit of information on, planning those last 2 years of high school to help you meet the admissions requirements for Europe. So that's it for me. If you guys have any questions, I'll open the floor now. I think a few of them did come in the chat, so I'm just going to have a look at those first. And then if anyone has any questions, feel free to either raise your hand or just drop them in the chat. Okay. Michelle, sometimes see AP test requirements in the database. What if my student has taken community college courses during high school or received university credit versus taking the AP exam for their AP class? Would those be accepted instead? So Michelle, unfortunately, community college credits are not always looked at in European admissions. What would cancel out those AP requirements would be a full year of college credits at a 4-year college, okay? So it would need to be 1 year of credits at a 4-year college. Usually they don't look at the community college courses, unfortunately. You might have better luck looking at what I mentioned earlier, these American colleges that are based in Europe. They might be a little bit more flexible with the community college, but the European credit recognition system tends to not recognize those community college courses. So another way to do that, to bypass that, would be either a year of college credits at a 4-year college or doing self-study courses through the College Board. Okay, Angie, have you seen an increase in international applications to European universities because of decrease in student visas awarded from the US and Canada, therefore more competitive, higher numbers of applicants to European universities? Yes, definitely. There are going to be some countries like the Netherlands have been receiving a lot more international applicants. There are some countries that have been, but there are some countries that have not been. So it will be getting a little bit more competitive, or we have seen it getting a little bit more competitive in some countries, but not all of them. Brian Armstrong, experience with homeschool students. So we do have some experience with homeschool students. It is there are going to be a few more hoops to jump through. So they usually want the diplomas to be accredited through a body called Clonlara. Okay, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Clonlara, but have a look at it. They usually accredit these high school diplomas to make sure that they kind of meet the same requirements as a US high school diploma would. Just because there's not as much homeschooling in Europe. So you have to take a look at that. And again, with homeschool, you're going to need to reach out to every school and make sure that this is something that they accept, because not all of them will accept it. I won't lie to you. They won't all take it. So it's important that you check on a case-by-case basis with each school that you're interested in attending. And how can 529 funds be used? So there are some schools in Europe that work with 529 funds, some don't. Again, it's going to be a matter of reaching out to every school individually and seeing if they work with these 529 funds. Keep in mind, sometimes schools work with FAFSA, sometimes they work with 529. It's not always both, so you'll need to be very careful when you're checking. If they receive a university credit for their AP class from University of Colorado, only a year is accepted. Generally, they need a full year of college credits. Let's say the school, because oftentimes for the admissions requirements, they're not just looking for one AP, they usually want to see 4 APs. So that's why they need the full year. Again, this could be on a case-by-case basis. You can always reach out to the school and see if that specific program would accept it, but generally they do want the full year to sub any AP requirements. Stefan, in terms of specialized areas, how specific does it need to be? Is it math, science, English, or history, or specifically biology, chemistry, or physics rather than science? So it does tend to be pretty specific. I'm not going to lie. A lot of the programs are strangely specific, but some of them are a little bit more general. So if you have access to our database, you can have a look through. You can look through science-based programs, and you will see some that are a little bit more flexible, but a lot of them do tend to be quite specific and going into, biology, chemistry, kind of like that. Sylvan, what steps should a student wanting to pursue a performing arts degree take in terms of courses, since APs don't apply for electives? Yeah, so a lot of the performing arts programs wouldn't necessarily need APs, you're right. They'll want to see a good GPA. They might want to see some kind of portfolio. It could be videos of them performing whatever their discipline might be. It's going to vary on the school. So it's, again, a good time to look at what programs are available. Again, if you have access to our database, you're welcome to have a look through there and look at the admissions requirements. But it could be different types of portfolios. They might want to do a video interview with your teen, or something like that. So it will be a little bit of a different process. Anything fine arts, performing arts is a little bit of different process, but yeah, you'll just want to check with the school because they're going to be very different. Would a European university allow for a gap year student spent studying a language in a country, for example, 1 year of Russian immersion? Angie, for that gap year question, do you mean if they want to transfer the credits, or what do you mean by that? Just while I wait for Angie, I'll answer Becca. So how hard is it to change majors then? It can be quite complicated to change majors because the programs are so structured. It's possible that that they might need to restart a new program. So we've often seen that where students that want to change majors have to restart a new program, unless if there are any courses that might cross over within the same university, they might be able to do that. But usually it is quite difficult to change majors. I mean, if they're going from, let's say, physics to biology, there could be some crossover. But yeah, it could be a little bit complicated. Okay, sorry, if they take a year after high school to do a language study and go to their university of choice. Oh, I mean, yeah, Angie, so if they, if they've graduated their high school, and then they go and do a gap year and then apply after that gap year, there's no problem. They'll look at that as, that would be okay if they went to go do that. They would still look at their high school transcript, so make sure that she's still doing well in high school, but they would look at that and you'd just be applying, a year later instead of right away. A lot of European students themselves love to take a gap year before they start a university anyway, so it's not uncommon for students to do that. Stefan, you have a question? You can unmute yourself if you can.
Hi, Jaimee. Thank you. This was very informative. I was curious because my daughter actually holds dual degree citizenship. She has EU Italian citizenship. Is that taken into account at all in the database that you guys use when you're matching to best fit match programs, or do you guys focus so exclusively on people that are coming with visas, that isn't even taken into account significantly.
No, I mean, look, so that is something that we will take into consideration. So the only thing is, so would she have done her high school in the US or did she do her high school in Europe?
No, she's doing her high school here in the US in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. So look, I mean, what she would get with the dual citizenship is she would get a tuition benefit in some countries. So there are some countries where she wouldn't be able to get it because they do have a residence requirement, like Ireland is one, for example, but a lot of countries don't have that residence requirement. So she would get a tuition benefit, but she would still be applying as an international student because her courses come from a US school, but she would get a tuition benefit, if that makes sense. But that is something that we would help guide you with. We'd let you know we'd make sure that we'd suggest schools where she can get that tuition benefit. So you'd pay even less. It'd be great.
And then I understand she also obviously wouldn't have to jump through all the visa hurdles. And
Nope.
technically, although we wouldn't want to wait longer, my understanding is that she doesn't have to apply as early as the non-citizen students, technically, correct?
She would have to because she's applying as an international student. She'll have the tuition benefit, but because she did her school in the US, they're looking at her academic profile as an international one.
Okay. But no visa issues, right?
No. I mean, she'd probably have to, depending on the country, she'd just, when she gets there, have to go get like a ID and stuff like that, but there wouldn't be the visa hoops to jump through at all, which is great. Less headache for you. Okay. Becca, you had your hand up.
Hi. Yeah, I had a couple questions too. So we are also dual citizens with Germany. And so you answered a couple of my questions, but I assume all he needs is a passport because I'm realizing Germany is super, super slow with getting stuff. And so we have passports, but he doesn't actually have a German birth certificate. Do you know whether that's gonna be a problem?
It shouldn't be a problem. So like basically what would happen is he has the passport, he can go over there, he can get his acceptance letter. And then once he gets there are going to be some things that he needs to do depending on the country, like getting like a public services card, establishing a residence card and all that kind of stuff. So those are the things that he would have to do. But, not having to get the initial visa is not something that he would have to do. He can just kind of go usually and just start getting all those residence cards and get himself set up over there.
Okay. And then I have a couple other questions. Because he's a little worried, like he was all set and then, he's gotten such great friends in high school. He's a little worried about making friends, and I keep telling him like, well, if you're in international dorms, even if it's not like at the university, it's all going to be students. You're going to end up making friends like through your program and through your dorms and stuff. Like, can you speak to that at all? Because he's not here because he has his calculus final tomorrow. So so I'm like kind of trying to remember questions that I know he wants to hear the answers to.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it perfectly yourself. I mean, these students are going to be, other international students are coming also alone. They're going to want to make friends. I think it's a great way to make friends, even more so sometimes than being in a US school because people might already have their friends there, whereas here they tend to be coming alone. So he'd be kind of, just meeting other people. Usually, to be honest, like let's say he goes to school in Germany, they usually don't make friends from Germany. They'll make friends from other countries in the world that are going to study there. But it's a great way to make, I mean, everyone that we work with makes such great friends. I went to school abroad as well. I made friends right away. Like there's a lot of ways to do it. It's a great thing.
Okay. And then let's see. And then IB, he's doing AP, but there's a chance that my younger son will not be at this school and he'll be at an IB school. Is it different? Because I've never even seen, I've gone through your database quite extensively, but I've never seen any mention of like how if you're in an IB program in the US, that changes things.
Yeah, so the IB diploma is great to have, but you need to have the full IB diploma. You can't just have a few courses. It needs to be the full thing, okay? The IB diploma will tend to cancel out any AP requirements or any SAT requirements. My colleague Kristen, I don't know if any of you have met her, she calls it the golden ticket for Europe because it does open up a lot more doors and it takes away all the AP requirements and stuff like that. But again, it needs to be the full diploma. They can't decide to stop doing it. It has to be the full diploma.
Okay, great. I think that was it.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So I'll just answer these last three and then we'll wrap this up, but we will share my email and everything. If you have any other questions, you can reach out to me. So do European schools have deferred admissions? So Leslie, sometimes they do. It's not always the case. I will say it's not as common as the US to have deferred admissions. So usually they would have to apply, like take your gap year and then apply. This is something you need to check with each school on a case-by-case basis, but it's not as common to do the deferred admission thing as it would be in the US. And Jennifer, does IB diploma replace the AP requirements? So again, yes, like I just said, so the IB diploma, if it's a full IB diploma, it usually replaces the AP requirements. Almost all of the time it will. And does the diploma mean no entry exam for the schools that require it? So even with the IB diploma, they would probably still need to do the entry exam. I think they would still have to do that. And okay, last one, Yvette, do you need the SAT, ACT? Sometimes. So if you're looking at Ireland, for example, they love to see an SAT score for some reason. I don't really know why. So they don't tend to care about AP courses, but they want to see an SAT score. So it varies. That's why we always say the more you have, the better. Like if you can do an SAT, if you can take AP courses, fantastic. That's why kind of starting this process in the junior year is a great time because you have 2 years to get anything that you need to get into these programs that you want to do. Okay, perfect. So look, Krisha just dropped my email in there. And like I said earlier, we'll be sending through all these materials. It will take us probably about 24 hours, so bear with us. It takes a while for these meetings to load. But you have my email there. If anyone has any questions on any of our packages or wants to have a chat with me about anything, just let me know. I hope this helps a little bit. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to join me today. And have a great rest of your evening, okay? Thanks, everyone.